Assalamualaikum, my name is IZZAT BIKAM binti ISMAIL and my group members consist of TASNIM binti AZHAR and FARHATUL Jannah binti AYOP. So now we are going to start presenting about the group assignment questions. So the first question is related to research design. So what is research design? So usually in every beginning of research there is a situation where the researcher is obligated to choose a methods and techniques framework that will be applied during the research conduct. So this method chosen can be referred as a research design. So according to Jannah, Deutsch and Koch, a research design is the arrangement of conditions for the collection and analysis of data in a manner that aims to combine relevance to the research purpose with economy and procedure. So the research design is to provide an appropriate framework for a study, and the choice regarding research design is significant decision since it will determine how relevant the data for study will be obtained. Okay, so there are three common types of research design, which is descriptive, exploratory, and causal research design. So the first one is descriptive. This type of research design is often being used for the purpose of easily obtaining information on the characteristic of particular community or people. So the observer will do observation and describe their findings. So descriptive research we use to study the current situation by answering the question of what, who, where, how, when rather than why. So the next is exploratory research design. So when the researcher has a limited past study for reference or no past data, so exploratory research design can be conducted. It will not offer concrete solution for research problem. However, the flexibility of this research will provide a basis and great help for future research. So and then last research design is causal research design. So the meaning of causal research is to determine the relationship between a cause and effect. So it is also known as explanatory research. To get accurate output, other confounding variables that might influence the result are kept constant while creating the data or are controlled using statistical methods. So the nature of causal research is very complicated, as a researcher can never be sure that no other hidden variables are influencing the causal relationship between two variables. Advantage of causal research design is to help identify the causes behind process taking place in the system. Next, causal research provides the benefit of replication if there is a need for it, and it will help identify the impacts of changing the process and existing methods. And in causal research, the subjects are selected systematically. Because of this, causal research is helpful for higher levels of internal validity. So the disadvantage of this type of research is it's difficult to administer because sometimes it is not possible to control the effects of all extraneous variables. Next, it is one of the most expensive research and is required a great deal of money. Next, it's provide information about your plan to your competitors. The fourth is the finding of causal research are always inaccurate because there will always be a few hidden causes. Next, it takes a long time to conduct this research, and this type of research should conduct other types of research to confirm the output in this research. Also, it's very difficult to determine which variables are the cause and which are the effects in this type of research.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is FARHATUL Jannah binti AYOP. My matric number 18BB05024. For the next question is the difference between primary data and secondary data. Firstly, for the primary data, refer to data that is collected by the researcher directly from the sources, or in the other words, the data that's originally from the researcher. Meanwhile, for the secondary data, refer to data or information that has been collected by the researcher and the data already exists or available to the researcher. Other than that, primary data is the real-time data. Meanwhile, secondary data is data that's related to the past data. Besides that, primary data collection requires a large amount of resources such as cost, times, and manpowers. Meanwhile, for the secondary data is more cheaper and time involved is much less for the researcher. And lastly, Sources for the primary data include survey, observation, experiment, and questionnaire. Meanwhile, for the secondary data collection, sources include government records, books, journal, articles, and others. Next, two major sources of primary data. Firstly is survey. Basically, survey divided by four types, which is personal interview or face-to-face interview, mail survey, phone survey, and internet survey or online survey. Next is observation. Basically, observation involves selecting, watching, and recording the phenomena, behavior, character, or the objects that researcher want to observe. So there is different approach which are structured or unstructured, control and uncontrolled, and participant, non-participant, or discouraged approaches. The next slide is three major sources of secondary data, which are journals, government records, and books. Why journals? Because journal is usually updated regularly, and more when it's come to the research is more specific. Other than that, government records. The information of the government records are useful, just as health records and education records, because governments usually collect data with proper planning. And then lastly is books. As we all know, today there are many books that are available in the markets. Besides that, data and information in the books are useful and can be trusted.
Assalamualaikum, my name is TASNIM binti AZHAR. Now I want to talk about the data measurement. For the information, measurement is the process of observing and recording observation collected as part of a research effort. Measurement is also the basis for making business decisions to achieve business objective. That is why it is important to do research data before making decisions. In research data, there are skills that researchers need to know. Measurement skills are used to qualify or measure data variable in statistics. This determines the type of technique that will be used for statistical analysis. Qualitative and quantitative data were measured using measurement scale. These measurement scales have four levels, namely nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and ratio scale. Nominal and ordinal scale are used to measure qualitative data, while interval and ratio scale are used to measure quantitative data. Next, let's find out the scale mentioned. The first scale is about nominal scale. Nominal scale describes variables with categories that have no natural order or position. You can input a nominal variable with a number if you want, but the order is arbitrary, and any calculation such as a calculation the mean, median, or standard deviation will not make sense. Simply put, it is the data used for the naming of variable. The example of nominal is blood type, zip code, gender, race, eye color, political party, and others. Nominal scales are qualitative in nature, meaning that numbers are used here only to categorize or identify objects. For example, the number that is on the jersey of a runner or a football player. These numbers have nothing to do with the player ability. However, it can help us to identify who the player is. The second point is ordinal scale. An ordinal scale is a scale whose order is important but not the difference between value. It is the data used to describe the order of value. For example, a student as a survey respondent will choose between the satisfaction option provided in the forms, but the answer to how much or the correct answer will remain unanswered. Related questions that are often asked are such as about socioeconomic status, level of satisfaction, education level, income level, and many more. As we can see the example from the survey question provided, it has been shown that the scale was made without having accurate answer from the respondent. So, by using this scale, the researcher can analyze the level of agreement among the respondents with respect to the arrangement of the identified variable. Now is interval scale. An interval scale is a number with no difference between variables such as time. The interval scale is the third stage of measurement after the nominal scale and ordinal scale. We must understand the first two levels to help us differentiate interval measurement. The hardest part about the interval scale is probably the fact that there are no true zeros. Interval data is particularly useful in business, social and scientific analysis and strategy because it is simple and quantitative. This is a preferred scale in statistics because you can provide numerical value for arbitrary assessment. Example of interval scale question refer to the types of queries most frequently used in research study. To receive an answer in the forms of interval data, you need to limit the response option to variable that can be assigned numerical value where the difference between the two variables is the same. Researchers may use the research study such as consent, satisfaction level, or likelihood. Survey need to be scaled so that the variable can meet the interval measurement criteria. Otherwise, the data you receive in feedback will be difficult to measure. The last point is ratio scale. A ratio scale is a level of scale of measurement variable that is quantitative in nature. It allows any researcher to measure in an interval where difference can be determined such as height and weight. The unique feature of the ratio scale is that it is at the force measurement level and has 0 point or original character. For example, the temperature outside is 0 degrees Celsius. 0 degree does not mean it is not hot or cold, but it's the value. The other example is such as in the figure at the slide showing that the running time of the first winner of the race is 13.4 seconds only. So the time record is the ratio scale in the measurement of this data. Ratio scale provide unique possibility for statistical analysis. In this scale, variable can be added, subtract, multiplied, and divided systematically. All statistical analysis can be calculated using it. That's all from us. Thank you for listening our presentation.